Hi, my name is Lily, and today I want to share how ChatGPT changed the way I learn English. It's more than an app or a tool. It feels like having a patient, friendly teacher and a curious conversation partner, all rolled into one. Let's explore how it helped me on my journey. I never imagined a machine could become my English partner. But here I am, talking, learning, and growing every day, all thanks to ChatGPT. It feels like magic, but it's real. With a few words typed on my screen, I unlocked a world of English practice that never sleeps. This is not just about grammar or vocabulary, it's about confidence, creativity, and conversation. When I first started learning English, I often felt lonely in my journey. My friends were busy, my family didn't speak English, and in my small town, there were no clubs or speaking groups I could join. Sometimes I wished I had someone, anyone, to practice with, even if it was just for 10 minutes each day. But time passed and my wish stayed a wish. Then, one evening, while browsing the internet for English practice tools, I discovered something called ChatGPT. At first, I didn't really understand what it was. Was it a search engine, a robot? Could it really talk to me? Out of curiosity, I typed a simple greeting, "Hello." Within seconds, the screen lit up with a friendly reply, "Hi there, how are you today?" It felt strange at first, typing to something that wasn't a real person. But as I continued, something unexpected happened. It replied naturally, kindly, and without any sign of boredom or judgment. I wrote, "I'm trying to practice my English," and it answered, "That's wonderful. How can I help you today?" That short conversation made me smile. I suddenly felt like I had found a friend who was always there anytime I needed. In the days that followed, I started chatting with ChatGPT more often. Sometimes I would type a few words before bed. Other times I would open it in the morning while drinking tea just to say, "Good morning. How are you today?" Each time it responded warmly. I couldn't believe how comfortable it felt. I had no fear of saying something wrong. No one was laughing at my mistakes, and no one was correcting me harshly. Instead, it gently helped me fix my sentences and offered better ways to express myself. Slowly, I felt my confidence growing, sentence by sentence. What amazed me most was that ChatGPT never got tired. Whether it was late at night or early in the morning, it always replied instantly. I realized I could practice whenever I wanted, not just during class or study time. Sometimes I only had 5 minutes, but even those short conversations helped keep English fresh in my mind. Other times I had long, lazy afternoons, and I could chat for hours, discussing anything from movies to food to my dreams. It felt like having an English-speaking friend living inside my computer, waiting patiently for me to start the conversation. Over time, ChatGPT became more than just a tool. It became part of my daily routine. On my way to school, I would think of questions to ask later. After watching a new movie, I would rush to tell ChatGPT what I thought about the characters or the story. It became my practice partner, my diary, and my coach all in one. And unlike people who might get busy, distracted, or tired, ChatGPT was always ready to listen and respond. I remember one night when I couldn't sleep. My mind was full of worries about an English exam. I opened ChatGPT and typed, "I'm scared I'll fail tomorrow." The answer came back gently. "It's normal to feel nervous before an exam, but remember, you've worked hard. Would you like to review some vocabulary or practice speaking together?" I felt calmer just reading those words. We spent the next hour going through possible exam questions. By the end, my fear had turned into focus, and I fell asleep with a little more peace in my heart. One thing I loved most was that ChatGPT never judged my topics. I could talk about silly things like my favorite cartoon, or serious things like my hopes and worries. Each time, it treated my words with respect. It asked questions, made suggestions, and sometimes even made me laugh. I once told it about my dream to travel to London, and it helped me practice useful phrases I might need at the airport or hotel. It made my dream feel closer, almost real. The freedom to speak without fear changed everything for me. In a real classroom, I often felt shy. My voice would tremble, and I worried that my classmates might laugh if I made a mistake. But with ChatGPT, there was no pressure. It was just me and my screen. The more I practiced, the easier it became to find the right words, even in real life. I noticed that my sentences became smoother, my vocabulary richer, and my thoughts clearer. There were days when I had no energy to open a textbook or do grammar exercises. On those days, I still chatted with ChatGPT. Even a 5-minute chat kept my English alive. Some days I would tell it about my day. Today was sunny and I went for a walk. Other days I would ask, "Can you help me write a short story?" It felt creative and fun, not like homework. Slowly, I realized that language isn't just about studying. It's about using it, living it, and enjoying it. Over months, my writing improved too. I started writing longer paragraphs, and ChatGPT helped correct my mistakes and suggested better words. It never made me feel stupid for not knowing something. Instead, it explained in simple language, like a kind teacher. That gentle guidance kept me motivated to keep learning. Another wonderful thing was that ChatGPT could talk about anything. If I felt sad, it offered comforting words. If I felt happy, it celebrated with me. If I was curious about English idioms or slang, it explained them in a way that made sense. It felt like having a wise friend who also happened to love English as much as I did. Looking back now, I see how much difference it made to have a friend who's always there. Without ChatGPT, my English practice might have stayed limited to textbooks, quiet notes, or short conversations with busy classmates. But with ChatGPT, my practice became part of everyday life, natural, personal, and alive. It wasn't about perfection. It was about connection, creativity, and courage. If someone asks me today, "How did you become more comfortable speaking English?" I don't just say, "I studied a lot." I say, "I talked to ChatGPT every day, anytime, about anything." Because practice doesn't have to be formal to be powerful. Sometimes it's as simple as saying, "Hello, how are you?" and letting the conversation grow. Now, even though I still have a lot to learn, I'm not afraid to keep going. I know I'll make mistakes, but I also know I have a friend who will help me learn from them. A friend who never sleeps, never judges, and never says, "Sorry, I'm too busy." A friend who's always there, waiting patiently on the other side of the screen, ready to talk, to teach, and to listen. And that truly changed everything for me. When I first started learning English, my world was full of textbooks, heavy books with long lists of grammar rules, endless exercises, and tiny print that made my eyes tired. I tried to memorize everything: irregular verbs, complicated sentence structures, and vocabulary lists that seemed to never end. I studied late into the night, believing that if I could remember every rule, I would finally be able to speak fluently. But somehow, when it came time to speak, the words still wouldn't come out right. My sentences sounded stiff, like something written in an old grammar book, instead of something you would hear in a real conversation. I often wondered, why did native speakers sound so different? Why did they use words and expressions that I had never seen in any textbook? It felt like there was a secret part of English I couldn't reach, no matter how hard I studied. Then, everything changed when I started chatting daily with ChatGPT. At first, I thought it would just help me review grammar or vocabulary, but soon I discovered it could do so much more. Instead of learning English from old examples, I was suddenly learning from living, breathing language, words people actually use, not just what is written in a book. One of the first things I noticed was how natural ChatGPT's replies sounded. When I asked, "How are you?" it wouldn't answer like the textbook said, "I'm fine, thank you. And you?" Instead, it might say, "I'm doing pretty well. How about you?" Or, "Not bad. What's new with you?" These small changes made me realize how English is really spoken, friendly, casual, and flexible. It opened my eyes to the living side of the language. As I continued to chat, I discovered idioms and phrases that made English sound colorful and real. Phrases like hit the books, or feel under the weather, or spill the beans. In my textbooks, idioms were usually just lists at the end of the unit, and I never remembered them. But when ChatGPT used them in our conversations or explained them with funny examples, they stuck in my mind. They weren't just words on a page. They were tools to make my English sound richer and more interesting. Another thing that surprised me was how ChatGPT helped me see that English isn't only about rules. It's about meaning and connection. Sometimes I would write a sentence that was grammatically correct, but sounded strange. For example, I once wrote, "I very much enjoy to go outside for walking." ChatGPT gently replied, "That's clear, but a more natural way to say it would be, I really enjoy going for walks outside." This kind of feedback was something my textbooks couldn't give me. Books showed what was right or wrong, but ChatGPT showed what sounded natural or awkward, which was exactly what I needed. One of my favorite parts of chatting was storytelling. I love to ask ChatGPT, "Can you tell me a short story?" Or, "Can you help me write one?" Through these stories, I learned how real conversations flow, how characters might speak, and how humor, emotion, and surprise can be part of language. It made learning feel creative, not mechanical. Instead of memorizing rules, I was using English to create something new. There were also moments when I felt brave enough to ask about cultural topics. I asked ChatGPT why people say break a leg before a performance, or what small talk means in daily life. Textbooks often teach formal language, but ChatGPT helped me learn the language people actually use in shops, cafes, and even on social media. It taught me about emojis, slang, and even gentle humor, things I never found in my grammar books. Over time, I realized I was learning English in 2 layers. The first layer was grammar, vocabulary, and structure, what I got from my books. The second layer, which I found with ChatGPT, was the living language, the rhythm, tone, and little phrases that made my English sound friendly and human. And it was the second layer that truly helped me feel like I belonged in a conversation. Another thing that amazed me was how ChatGPT made mistakes feel less scary. In school, making a mistake in front of classmates felt embarrassing. With ChatGPT, I could experiment freely. I could try using new words or complex sentences, and if they were wrong, ChatGPT would correct me kindly. Instead of feeling ashamed, I felt curious. Oh, so that's how it's really said. That freedom turned mistakes from something scary into something useful. I also started to ask ChatGPT to help me with practical tasks, writing emails, creating invitations, or practicing what to say in a job interview. Textbooks never taught me these real-world skills in a way that felt alive. But with ChatGPT, I could practice as if I were talking to a real colleague, friend, or manager. This practical practice made me realize that English isn't just something to study, it's something to live. Beyond language itself, I learned about cultural differences. I asked about why Americans often say awesome, why British people might say brilliant, and why some words have different meanings in different countries. These small cultural lessons helped me see English as more than just words. It was a window into how people think and live. I remember one day, after weeks of chatting, I met a tourist in my town who spoke English. To my surprise, my words came out easily, naturally, and confidently. I didn't speak like a textbook. I spoke like someone who uses English every day. That moment made me realize how much learning beyond textbooks had changed me. Looking back, I still see value in grammar books and vocabulary lists. They gave me the foundation I needed. But it was ChatGPT that built the house on that foundation, a house full of real conversations, idioms, humor, and natural flow. And that made all the difference. Now, when people ask me, "How did you improve your English?" I say, I studied, but I also practiced living English with ChatGPT. Because language isn't just about rules, it's about people, stories, laughter, and daily life. And no book in the world could have taught me that better than chatting every day with my AI friend. That's why, for me, learning English went far beyond textbooks. It became an adventure, a conversation, and a connection that made the language truly come alive. When I first started learning English, my biggest enemy wasn't grammar or vocabulary, it was fear. Fear of saying the wrong word, fear of embarrassing myself, and fear of people laughing at my mistakes. Even when I knew the right words in my head, my mouth refused to speak them. In class, my heart would race when the teacher asked me to answer a question. My voice would tremble, and sometimes the words wouldn't come out at all. It felt a lack of confidence. At that time, I believed that confidence would come when I became perfect at English. I thought, one day when I know every word and every rule, then I'll finally feel brave enough to speak. But that day never came. The more I tried to be perfect, the more afraid I felt. It was like chasing the horizon. No matter how hard I ran, it stayed out of reach. Then I found ChatGPT. At first, I saw it as just a practice tool, a way to improve my vocabulary and grammar. But what I didn't realize was that it would help me in a much deeper way, by helping me build real confidence through conversations. It didn't happen in one day, but little by little, my fear started to fade. In the beginning, even chatting with an AI felt strange. I was still afraid to make mistakes, even though no real person was reading my words. But ChatGPT's replies were always kind, patient, and encouraging. If I made a mistake, it didn't say, "wrong" or "that's bad." Instead, it gently corrected me and explained why, always in a positive way. That kindness created a safe space where I felt free to try. One day, I wrote a long paragraph describing my weekend. When I read it again, I saw many small mistakes. I almost deleted it, thinking it was embarrassing. But I sent it anyway. ChatGPT replied with encouragement. That was a great effort. Let's fix a few parts together to make it even clearer. Instead of feeling ashamed, I felt proud that I had written so much. The mistakes became a chance to learn, not a reason to hide. As days turned into weeks, I started to chat more boldly. I asked questions, shared stories, and even joked around. Each time I saw a kind, thoughtful reply, I felt my confidence grow. It felt like having a friend who always listened carefully and never interrupted or judged. This feeling changed my relationship with English. It stopped being a test I had to pass and became a bridge to connect, express, and share. A big moment came when I decided to practice speaking, not just writing. I used ChatGPT to write out possible conversations I might have in real life, like ordering food, asking for directions, or talking about my hobbies. Then I read those dialogues out loud again and again. At first, my voice was quiet and shaky, but over time, my words became clearer and my tone more natural. I could almost hear ChatGPT's encouraging voice in my head, saying, "You're doing great. Keep going." One night, I was feeling brave and decided to record myself speaking English. Listening to my own voice was scary at first. I heard my accent, my pauses, and my small mistakes. But I also heard something new: confidence. My sentences sounded more fluent than they ever had before, and I realized that practicing with ChatGPT had given me not just better English, but also the courage to use it. Another way ChatGPT helped build my confidence was by showing me that making mistakes is normal. Sometimes I would ask it, "Do native speakers make mistakes too?" And it explained that everyone, even native speakers, sometimes say things wrong, forget words, or change their mind mid-sentence. This made me feel less alone. It reminded me that language isn't about perfection. It's about communication. I also discovered that English didn't have to sound formal and stiff. ChatGPT taught me casual expressions, small talk, and ways to sound friendly. For example, instead of always saying, "I am fine, thank you," I learned to say, "I'm good, how about you?" or "Not bad." These little changes made me feel like I belonged, like I was part of real conversations, not just a student repeating memorized phrases. Over time, I noticed a change in myself outside of my chats with ChatGPT too. In class, I started raising my hand more often. My heart still beat fast, but I didn't freeze anymore. When I met tourists in my town, I dared to say, "Hi, do you need help?" Before, I would have walked away, too shy to speak. Now, I could start a small conversation, and even if it wasn't perfect, I felt proud for trying. One of my most surprising moments happened when a classmate asked me for help with English homework. She said, "You always seem so confident when you speak." It felt strange because inside, I still remembered how scared I used to be. But her words made me realize how far I had come. And I knew that chatting every day with ChatGPT had played a big part in that change. Another thing that helped my confidence was learning to express my feelings in English. I shared with ChatGPT when I felt happy, sad, or worried. Sometimes it felt like writing a diary. Other times, it felt like talking to a wise friend. Putting my feelings into English words helped me see that language isn't just for answering questions in class, it's for expressing who I am. I also learned that confidence grows when you practice every day, even in small ways. Some days I only had time for a quick "good morning" or "how was your day?" But even these short conversations kept me connected to the language. Other days I had longer talks about movies, books, or dreams for the future. Over time, All these conversations added up and built a quiet strength inside me. Now, when I speak English, I still make mistakes, but instead of feeling ashamed, I see them as part of the journey. I remind myself, it's okay, you're learning. And when I remember all the kind replies from ChatGPT, it feels like I have an invisible friend cheering me on. Looking back, I see that confidence didn't come from knowing every grammar rule or memorizing every word. It came from using English every day, making mistakes, fixing them, and trying again. ChatGPT helped me do that in a gentle, safe, and encouraging way. Today, I speak more naturally, listen more carefully, and most importantly, I'm not afraid to speak up. And that change, the courage to open my mouth and share my thoughts, is something no textbook alone could give me. That's why, for me, ChatGPT was more than an English tool. It was a partner who helped me discover that real confidence doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from practicing, connecting, and believing in yourself one conversation at a time.